Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual. And obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 133 of the show. And before we get started, we're going to do a house cleaning real quick because, well, you guys know we always like to do it around here. So, yeah. And I kind of want to make the house cleaning a little bit quick this time because we definitely have a good amount to talk about. It's not going to be a super long episode. Like, I'm not expecting an hour-long discussion. But I am definitely intrigued to talk about this because I know this is very, brand new news. Like, just came out, like, literally at the time of this recording, it was only a couple hours ago. But I definitely want to talk about it because to me, it is definitely worth talking about. But I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening. It does really mean a lot to me. You guys constantly keep coming back and you keep listening to these episodes. You keep downloading them. You keep sharing them. And for me, it just means a lot that you guys constantly keep doing that. Thank you guys for helping us, almost close to 2,000 total downloads. I greatly appreciate that. And I also want to say thank you to the Patreon backers for constantly supporting the show, constantly keep coming back and downloading these episodes, sharing them, obviously being Patreon backers. So you guys obviously support me, and in return, you get early access to the new episodes, which in time, like I mentioned before, and I will continue to mention, we are going to add more benefits to the Patreon backers, which now we're actually in the process of getting new benefits added. So we're currently in the process of doing that right now. And one of them is feasible right now. So we're working on that. So please be patient with me and we'll pretty much go from there. Aside from everything else, like the only other thing I can say is like, I'm kind of happy in my PC setup right now because I got a new mouse for my computer. I got the G502 wireless. I'm really liking this mouse. I already love the 502, the regular to begin with. So having the wireless to me is nice because I really like this mouse. And so, yeah, aside from that, we're pretty much chilling right now. School's going all right. School's not so bad. I say that now and I'm just like, well, one of my classes is a bit stupid right now, but it's definitely interesting so far. And that's all I can really say in regards to that. So now it's time to get into today's topic, which I know some people are going to get mad at me because I'm like, yes, you guys voted either between the Pixel 4a 5G and the Pixel 5 or the AMD 5000 series processors. But this new topic kind of took it because it is the hot news right now. So I wanted to talk about it, give my thoughts and impressions on it. And then probably maybe if we can work something out, we can get some people on to talk about it as well. So what am I talking about? We're not talking about the Pixel 5 or the 4a 5G or the AMD 5000 series. We're actually talking about the Apple event that happened on October 13th at 12 o'clock my time. So it's noon my time, so CDT. And it was 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But we are going to talk about the Apple event and what happened. Because, yes, this event, we already knew it was going to happen. We knew there was going to be 4 iPhones. We knew there was going to be a HomePod Mini. But I think a lot of people weren't expecting what we got. And some of the things that we've been hearing and a lot of people were worried about came to fruition. And now it's like, oh boy. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about. So we're going to be talking about the Apple event. So yes, I'm going to mention the HomePod Mini. Okay, cool, great. I'm still going to say nobody really cares about the HomePod Mini. No one should care about the regular HomePod. Yes, I understand that it's a great sounding speaker. I understand that, but it still doesn't make much logical sense. Okay, it's a smart speaker that uses Siri. Siri is the worst virtual assistant that we have for all of the digital assistants, Google Assistant, Alexa, Bixby, it's just like, my God. And then we have Siri, and then Siri is just the worst out of all of them. So yeah, that's that's lovely. We have a speaker that relies on Siri, and then at the same time, it doesn't support Spotify. And I get it. It supports everything else but Spotify, because I get it. They want you to use Apple Music. Even though a lot of people, and I even Taylor of Tech made a video, like, and he's obviously known as the Apple sheep, like the Apple sheep, Taylor of Tech. But even Drew mentioned that he switched away from Apple Music, and he gave solid concern on why he did, and he talked about it. So you can go watch Drew's video where he talked about it. But this was not a wise move for Apple to continue to snuff Spotify. I think, especially Spotify being the industry leader in streaming music, that doesn't mean they're the best. That just means they're the industry leader. I still think it was a bad idea, and I think Apple is going to learn that, hey, maybe this wasn't a bright idea. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in regards to this, but all we can really do now is just see. Granted, I think at $100, it's a fair price. I think releasing the original HomePod at its price of around 300 something was a terrible idea to begin with, because like I said, there's not really much benefit to it. And I'm glad that Apple learned from their mistake, but I still think the HomePod is essentially useless because it runs Siri, and it doesn't have Spotify. So I think it's kind of useless, But now we get to talk about the nitty gritty, which is the iPhones. And this is where a lot of people are like, "Hey, why do I say that?" One, the pricing, I think the pricing was good, but I also understand that it confirmed a lot of people's worst fears about the iPhone launch this year. So I understand where a lot of people are coming from in regards to why they're concerned. So let's see what actually happened. So they started the event with the iPhone 12. Made sense. The iPhone 12, we had the iPhone 11, so now we need the 12. The 12, great phone. I'm actually surprised that they went with the Super Retina displays, that they didn't cheap out. So now they went with basically their own flagship displays that they put on every iPhone, the flagship, the Pros, and the fact that they put them on the cheaper model. That's pretty crazy. The camera's obviously got an improvement. It's thinner, lighter, and smaller than last year's. And it's going back to the form factor that the iPad Pros are using, where a more rounded off design, where it's more square shaped like the original iPhones, and that original design that a lot of people wanted back. So I'm glad that they went through and did that. They also mentioned things about the ceramic glass, how Apple has made a glass that's a little bit more durable to handle these kind of, I'd say, drops. That's pretty much what they are focusing on, was drops and things like that. And to me, it's interesting that they went that route, because yes, it's actually pretty cool, that fact that they're focusing on drop protection, drop resistance, and making these basically glass sandwiches a little bit more durable, which I think that's a smart idea. But I do like the new design going forward. Yes, the notch is still there, but granted, you gotta pick and choose your battles. And it's also running the A14 processor, which debuted in the iPad Air, the new one that's coming out. And yeah, obviously they mentioned that it's 50 times more, or it's a 50% more powerful than other competing smartphone chips, which is kind of funny because they're basically just taking shots at, they're taking shots at Qualcomm the whole time with the Snapdragon 65, where they're just like, yeah, our competitor is struggling to keep up with our last gen products, so we're just going to keep steamrolling ahead because why not? And to me, that was pretty funny. I'm just like, it's true, but even though, yes, I know Juan is going to be like, well, I've done performance benchmarking. I'm like, okay, yes, Juan has a point, because he's actually showing like performance numbers, how even though these processors are far better than the Qualcomm comparison or the Qualcomm equivalent, that the iPhone still drags behind in some aspects. And so they showed off the 12, they showed off the new colors. I think the colors are great. They got rid of the yellow. Well, yeah, they got rid of yellow, and they got rid of periwinkle. So now we're stuck with black, green, white, a new dark blue, and red, the product red. And I know a lot of people like the dark blue. It's a great color. I still love the red regardless. And from there, they proceeded to show the 12 mini. So it was confirmed by John Prosser that the smaller iPhone is going to get called the 12 mini. So, we got the 12 mini. And this is just a smaller form factor iPhone that is the size of like the old school iPhones with a 5.4 inch display. So yes, I understand that a lot of people are like, well, we missed the old form factor with iPhones being like 4 inches and things like that. And I'm like, well, yes, but given the current standards of how things are done and how modern products are made, it's kind of hard to make a phone that small given the current demands of processors and battery size without basically bricking a phone. So, you know, we're not going to get that small, but this is still the smallest iPhone you can get right now for people that didn't like the SE, you know, having the old bezels and things like that, and somebody wanting a more modern iPhone at that size. Then yes, this would be the phone for you. And as we expected, exact same thing as a 12. The only difference is a smaller battery and smaller display, but the pricing was really good, and it made sense because the primary focus that they also emphasized was 5G this year, which I know Apple was even stated how, like, yes, Apple is very slow to adopt new technologies, but when they do adopt it, it then becomes a standard because now Apple, it's the stigma that people have that Apple, when Apple does something, it legitimizes something, like it makes it credible, that it makes it important. And now that they're doing this 5G, a lot of people are saying that yes, this could lead to Apple pushing the market to be more willing and enticing to incorporate 5G and probably even make it cheaper, because yes, this year was a very expensive year to start incorporating the Snapdragon, like specifically the 5G modems from Qualcomm, which as a result, most Android phones prices went way up because of the 5G modem and the 865. So, you know, in return, Apple had to raise prices. Granted, not as drastically, but what happened was that the 12 mini is now the price, the starting price that the 11 started, so $699, and now the 12, which is considered the replacement for the 11, starts at $799. So it's a $100 price jump, but that's because the better display, the better processor, you know, the 5G modem, which makes sense. It's fair. And I think those two iPhones are going to sell great like hotcakes. But now we go into the pros. And yes, I will say I was watching Viper's stream while he was talking about it, or watching the event, and he had the same reaction as me when we saw that gold iPhone. We were like, oh my God. That gold, like, it's not rose gold. Like, I know everyone's familiar with the rose gold color on the iPhones, but that gold is beautiful. And some people are making jokes like the Pablo Escobar iPhone edition, and it was an incredible color. Like, I was really excited when I saw that color because to me, that's a great color. That's the color that I would want. And that's just beautiful. And a lot of people are probably going to buy that. And yes, we got the pros. They talked about how, yes, they're starting at 128. They start about, you know, they're talking about the performance jump with the A14. They talk about 5G. They talk about the camera, which the camera is the main benefit this year. I will say that now. The camera is the main reason you would buy the Pro. This is where the controversy starts, though, because with the Pros, we are getting two different approaches because the Pros no longer have the same cameras. And this is weird because this is the first time Apple has done it, where they always do, both models have the same camera. The only difference is one has a more, basically a bigger screen, a bigger battery. That's all that is. That's all the difference. Bigger screen, bigger battery. That's all you're paying for. Now, there's actually a difference. There's different camera modules. And a lot of people are upset about this because they're like, why would Apple go doing this? Why would Apple go and do this when normally they have the same modules and everything is the exact same? The only thing you're paying is just a bigger battery and bigger screen. And a lot of people are upset that the Pro Max, if you truly want the Pro experience from the iPhone this year, then you have to buy the Max because the Max has the best camera setup. And I agree that Drew from Talos of Tech, that he mentioned that the iPhone 12 Pro is kind of the weird oddball in the situation because it doesn't make much sense to buy this phone. It doesn't, because at the same price, you can get a maxed out model of the iPhone 12 at $100 less than the starting price of the iPhone 12 Pro. And that's actually true. Because if you're not really gaining much out of it, then, you know, what's the point? Because the processors are the same, the displays are the same. Sure, the cameras might not be the exact same because, you know, 2 cameras compared to 3 and the LiDAR sensor, but you basically get the same phone. The only difference is a little bit less RAM, maybe 4 gigs instead of 6, but you get more storage in the exchange for $100 less. And that's why even Drew mentioned, and I agree with it, that the iPhone 12 Pro doesn't make much sense. Like, it should have just been the mini, the 12, and the Pro Max. But, you know, now we have to deal with this because now a lot of people are like, well, yeah, that's starting to make a little bit more sense that they should have just kept the Max and not do the 12 Pro, because the 12 Pro doesn't make much sense to get it, because the Max is the one that will have all the best features. And yes, they also announced new camera features like, you know, wide angle night mode and improved night mode, using deep fusion with all the cameras now, using night mode on all the cameras. You have the new telephoto lens on the Pro Max. You have the bigger sensors, the new Apple RAW video file, or I would say photo file. You have shooting in Adobe in 10-bit. You have, well, not Adobe, but Dolby Vision. You have shooting Dolby Vision HDR video. You have shooting in 10-bit video, like, or HDR 10-bit. And it's very crazy that, yes, they're definitely pushing these phones as a more video centric, because now with all the new improvements and running on the A14, which is a 5nm process, which the first 5nm processor, that it's definitely crazy and also concerning, because you basically just made one of the iPhones have no value in this sense, because like I mentioned, the 12 doesn't make much logical sense. And I get it. Other companies have done this before. We've seen Samsung do this with the S20 line, the S20, the S20 Plus, and the S20 Ultra. The S20 Plus did not have the same cameras as the S20 Ultra. The S20 Ultra, in theory, should have had the better cameras because they pumped in the new sensor, they pumped in the telephoto, the 100x zoom, and stuff like that. And yes, there was obviously issues, which, you know, that the S20 Plus didn't have, and that's why a lot of people said the S20 Plus was a better value proposition than the Ultra. And now we're having to, you know, see that. But to me, it's weird that Apple went about it this way. It's very strange because, like I said, this isn't a case where the Pro has issues that the 12 Pro won't have, but it's interesting that Apple went down this route, that they decided to make the Max, and I would say specifically push you towards buying the Max. Because yes, I get it, they're a phone manufacturer, they got to get you to buy their smartphones and things like that. But it's just weird that if, you know, like, you market the Pros as the Pro, like the professional, high-end, best of the best that Apple has to offer, and then you're like, oh, well, the 12 Pro doesn't have the best of the best, the Pro Max does. So it's like, does that mean that there's like a level above Pro, like Pro? Like, it's, Juan was making jokes about this on Twitter, but he has a lot of points that it doesn't make much sense on why they did it the way they did, because it doesn't. Like, there's just, why? Like, why would you differentiate the Pro line when it's already your top of the top? Like, it's your best iPhone that you make. And yes, a lot of people are upset about things like not having 120 hertz, that John Prosser was saying that the hardware was capable. It's just Apple didn't want to compromise battery life, because 5G is already a big strain on battery life, and then 120 hertz just adds on to it. And they obviously don't want to degrade the experience, because a lot of people have said, yes, having 120 hertz in 5G can definitely drain your battery life pretty quickly. And we noticed that even my S20 Ultra with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery still struggles to make a full day, even running at 120 hertz and 5G. And I really like what Apple actually did with the 5G implementation with the radios, because what they did was they made the receivers in a way that it will optimize how you go about getting signal. That it will, if you're in a strong area with 5G, then it will use the 5G to immediately, like, you know, do what you have to do. But if you're in a weak signal, it's going to switch over to a more acceptable band and get you a better signal without having to allow the modem to constantly keep searching and draining battery life. So I think, based on what we're hearing and how Apple was describing things, we will see better battery performance out of these iPhones, even with 5G, because now they're more efficient when it comes to using 5G. And that's what a lot of people have been saying, that yes, 5G implementation has been a bit funky, because yes, it drains your battery life a lot, and a lot of people don't even use it. A lot of people don't even have access to it. So having it built into your phone and not having a way of properly handling it is kind of a pain in the ass because you can't really disable it, and now you're pretty much SOL, and it does drain into your battery life. And a lot of people are like, well, the hell are we supposed to do? And I think what Apple went about doing and how they went about doing it was a smart idea of making a custom, I'd say, a custom receiver that is able to choose what is the best in this situation. It's the same way how they do with ProMotion, where it's not always 120 hertz, where it's down samples, or it goes all the way down to like 1 millisecond, or 1 hertz, 24 hertz, so that you can watch 24 frames per second videos and things like that, or ramps all the way up to 220 hertz when you're doing something intensive or scrolling. And it's interesting that Apple went about doing it that way, that now they made something, I would say, similar to ProMotion, except now for 5G and dealing with LTE bands and things like that. And I think that was actually a really good idea. Another thing they also ended up doing was bringing back MagSafe. That, if you guys remember, MagSafe was the charging mechanism, or the mechanism that Apple used to use with older MacBooks, with that cable that would connect, and it would magnetically connect and it would stay there unless you disconnect it. And it's very interesting that Apple brought it back to repurpose it for the iPhones, which at this point people are like, well, RIP AirPower, because this is pretty much Apple's solution to not dealing with AirPower, and it already improves on technology they already had. And because Apple even mentioned it, how when you're charging your glass phone on a very slippery surface on a wireless charger, it doesn't stay, and it sometimes will slip off. So what they did was they decided to create their MagSafe chargers, which basically are like magnets. That's basically what it is. And you're able to charge your iPhone wirelessly like a magnet. So just instantly lines up perfectly and it will charge, no issues. And they also did this to add new accessories that basically involve magnets. So now we're getting a MagSafe wallet. So, if you want a leather wallet attachment to your iPhone, you can do it. They're making MagSafe cases. And this also leads into another issue that a lot of people are worried about, which is the fact that the iPhones will not have chargers. They'll give you the new cable that they're using, which is the Lightning to USB-C, but they will not give you the brick because they're reducing their waste. And Apple wants to promote being very eco-friendly. They want to promote being, pro-environment, that, they care about the environment. So we want to reduce waste. We don't want to have such a big carbon footprint, and justifying it like, look, because we don't have to include the brick in the box, we're able to make the boxes smaller. And as a result, we can put more phones on pallets to ship them out. But a lot of people are upset because, as Apple has mentioned themselves, they always get new customers every year. And this is going off the assumption that a lot of people that are switching to these phones or buying these phones already have these chargers, when they really don't. And the fact that now they include the Lightning to USB-C charger, that means you have to buy the 18-watt brick or the 30-watt brick, which it did come with the iPhone 11 Pros last year, that they gave the fast charger in the box. And somebody was making jokes on Twitter. They were like, well, everyone complained about how the iPhone 11 got snuffed because they got the basic 5-watt charger, while the Pros got the 18-watt charger. And like, look, this sucks. And then people were like, some people were making jokes that Apple took them literally. They're like, oh, so you don't like not having a fast charger in the box? Okay, then we'll just take out the charger complete to begin with, because you guys don't even want the 5-watt. So, and it's a bit crummy. The MagSafe charger alone is like $40. And the fact that the cable is probably pushing like 20 something. So I'm just like, yeah. This is a very interesting case to see what happens. I'm interested to see what Apple does. They also released like a MagSafe dock where you can charge your iPhone and your Apple Watch together. And to me, it is interesting to see what happens, because yes, I do agree that Apple made some wise decisions this year. I'm a bit concerned with how this goes forward, especially because the iPhone launches are split. The first two to come out will be the 12 and the 12 Pro. Pre-orders will go live on October the 16th and start shipping out the 23rd. And in November, that's when the Pro Max and the 12 Mini will come out. And a lot of people aren't so happy about that, because they're like, well, people wanted the Mini, now they have to wait till October or November. And then people that wanted the Max, they have to wait till November. And if you wanted the 12 Pro or the 12, then they're the first ones to get. So a lot of people are probably going to be pre-ordering those, which, like I said, to me, the 12 Pro doesn't make much sense. It really doesn't, because you get more value out of the 12 and just getting a bigger storage model. That's all you're getting, because you're basically getting the exact same phone. The only benefit is the camera upgrades and the extra RAM. That's it. So that's just my opinion on the matter. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode talking about the Apple event. Like I said, it was interesting watching the event. I didn't care about the HomePod. I will constantly keep saying the HomePod is useless. It doesn't make much sense. Like, this thing is basically just a paperweight is all it is. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. How you guys feel about the new iPhones? Are you going to be getting one? I have already gone on record and said that I do not believe if you have an iPhone 11 Pro or even a Pro Max that you should even upgrade. I think you're fine with your phone. There's no reason to upgrade. And I'll probably be doing a topic later, maybe next week, talking about like breaking down the situation, if it's even worth the upgrade. But I do thank you guys for your time and coming back and listening. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys constantly keep coming back and you keep downloading these episodes, you keep sharing them. And I just hope that you guys have a wonderful week. Granted, I should have an episode for Friday, in theory. Don't hold me to it, because I have a lot of things going on this week. Keep me in your thoughts and prayers, because this week is my second interview with T.I. Obviously, for me, this is a very big deal, because this is the second interview with T.I. And if I do get the internship, then I would basically be guaranteed a job once I graduate. And for me, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes, because either way, whether I get it or not, the experience is all that matters. And that's really all we can do, is just be grateful, be patient. And if you guys can just keep me in thoughts and prayers, and hopefully everything goes well. But I love you guys to death. Please continue to be safe. Please continue to take care of everyone around you. Don't do anything dumb. I know times are weird right now. And in my opinion, just be safe, guys. Don't do anything dumb. Continue to take care of everyone around you. And I love you guys to death. And hopefully I will see you guys Friday, where we will talk about the Pixel 5. And, because I do want to talk about the Pixel 5 and 485G. But I love you guys to death. Please continue to be safe. And I'll see you guys on Friday. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.